In prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful. Surely I am being turned to thee, O Allah, trying to be upright, to him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I'm not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, Lord of the worlds. No associate has he, this am I commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the King, there is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant. I have been greatly unjust to myself and do confess my faults. Please, Allah, grant me protection against my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me to the best of morals, for none can guide to the best of morals but thee. And please, Allah, turn away from me the evil and indecent morals, for none can turn away from me the evil and indecent morals but thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad and bless the true followers of Muhammad, as thou didst bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham. Surely thou art to be praised and magnified. O Allah, make Muhammad successful and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou didst make Abraham successful and the true followers of Abraham successful. For surely thou art to be praised and magnified. Ameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praise is due forever. I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted and living Christ. And I bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our divine reminder and warner, and the Messiah that is in our midst. I greet my family with the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
And how's the family? I think we got everyone. We got Sister Roberta has joined us. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Roberta.
Walaikum salam, sir.
We have Sister Jocelyn. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Jocelyn.
Walaikum salam, sir.
And we got Sister Dorana. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Dorana.
Walaikum salam.
We got Brother Rashid. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
How's everyone doing?
Fine, sir.
Praise be to Allah. As always, before we get started, does anyone have any questions with regard to any of the material that has been covered? Or any questions in general about anything?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Luke. This is the Durana. Ever since, I think this was a couple of weeks ago. Well, I don't remember the exact date, but the conversation you were having about going back and forth, the lion in the, well, I can't forget it. I mean, it's been on me. I think about it every day because it really describes me to a point. And it's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. And I'm just so lit up. Is there any way that you can point me in the direction or at some point cover it? Because that's one thing I would love to be able to master, because it has been a sore in my side for many, 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 many years. So anyway, I just wanted to ask, well, I'm not really asking you a question, I'm making a statement. I was wondering if there's any way that that we could go into that deeper, or could you just send me some reading I can do or something that I can try to help myself with the help of Allah. Thank you.
You mean with regards to going back and forth?
Yes, sir. Going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Oh my God.
You mean outside of Dianetics itself?
No, well, Dianetics being would be the source that I would use, but because I don't quite understand it. I don't know how it came about. I don't know where it came from. So okay. I'm sort of at a loss.
Okay, so you want to understand what the going back and forth actually means?
Yeah, well, I know the description that you gave at the time, it fits me. That's what I do. Making the decision, I go back and forth to the point I wear myself out and I end up doing nothing. You understand? And I've been living with this for years. So years and years and years. So to know that there's a reason for it. Because it was many years I didn't even recognize it. Someone had to bring it to my attention, here within the last few years. So all these years I've been living with this and not knowing that there was a problem or issue. I just thought everybody or most people have that problem, but it wasn't anything that I discussed with anyone. I just haven't kept it under wraps. But I couldn't make a decision. Making a decision is so difficult for me.
Okay.
Over all these years. Yes,
So what I'll do is I'll explain it.
I'd appreciate it.
Give a dynamic. And then there's 2 points that come to mind as you ask this. I'm going to touch on 2 points from the perspective of Dianetics.
Now you're breaking up, Brother Lucan. Is it me or is it, I don't know.
Wait, say that again?
You're breaking up. Your voice, it's breaking up. Now I don't know if that's me, or is it you, or does anyone else have a problem with that?
Does
Can you
anyone
hear him?
have a problem?
No.
Okay.
Okay, then it's me then.
No, ma'am.
Me, it's like if you're not speaking or in an area that have noisy background, just put yourself on mute. The
Yes.
button is there, or either *6, because it's really not fair. Thank you.
So
Yes, ma'am.
I'll address it from 2 points from Dianetics, and then I'll touch on an ayah that comes to mind from the Holy Quran. First, going back and forth was a term in book 1, Dianetics. If you're auditing someone and you're having trouble making contact or going back on the time track, what you do, what L. Ron Hubbard described is he called it greasing the rails. And what that is you go back and forth. So if you're auditing someone and you ask them, okay, go back to a time where you experienced pain or anguish, and they have trouble picking up something, then you bring them back to present time, you go over a pleasure moment. So you get them to run a pleasure moment. And as they run that a pleasure moment, what you're doing is you're gaining what's called attention units. So now as you gain the attention units, you're gaining more of the standard memory bank. So then you ask them, okay, go back to a moment where you had, a situation or a problem or an issue. What will happen is eventually by going back and forth, you'll pick up enough attention units where you'll be able to go back to a time period of mental anguish, and they might pick up maybe just 1 or 2 perceptics. So once you're able to gain those perceptics, now you use that to try to build that scenario of their reverie at that point in time. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It does make sense.
Now
Yes, sir.
here is a demo kit to illustrate that. Those of you who live in the north and have ever been stuck in snow, or even if you've stuck in the mud, what happens is you're stuck in one space, and as you hit the gas, your wheels will just spin, but you'll make no forward progress. So what happens is if you can get someone to push you forward, and then you rock backward, and then push you forward, and then rock you backward, what you're doing is you're building up the momentum so that when they finally push you forward, you can hit the gas and get out of that area where you're stuck at. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So greasing the rails is that same scenario, just done on a mental level. And I'll give you another example. Have you ever experienced this where someone says, do you remember so-and-so from high school? And you say, someone said, do you remember John from high school? And you're like, John. So every time you say the word John, you're saying John, but in your mind, you're going back to high school and you're trying to pick up a perceptic that's connected with that name. So you're going back and forth. And then you might say, oh yeah, I remember that brother. So it's the same concept on the mental level. You're going back and forth, back and forth. So that's one perspective. In Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard talks about the maybe. And the maybe is what causes us to remain stagnant in one place because we can't choose either go left or right. So the maybe keeps us stuck. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir,
Okay.
it does.
What happens is this: just make a decision either way. There's a verse in the Holy Quran, and it says this: from whither you turn, thither is Allah's purpose. Meaning, no matter which direction you go, or no matter what decision you make, whatever we do is already part of Allah's purpose. So just make a decision to do something or not to do it. But we got to get out of the maybe, because maybe keeps us stuck, and then we make no progress either way. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. That's me. Yes, sir.
It's actually, to a certain extent, it might be more than just you. It might be all of us. Because have you ever did this? You're walking through the house to do one thing, and they say, "Oh, I got to go do this," and then you stop and you go back and do that one thing. So what just happened? That's a maybe. So neither thing gets completed. So my biggest problem is I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. I'm an individual that I might have 10 books right now, and they all have pieces of paper in them. I have started to read all the books, but I haven't completed any. So what I try to do now is I try to complete a cycle of action. Start something, go through the actions of completing it, and then complete it. And then what I do is I have a journal. I have instead of saying to-do list, I don't use to-do anymore. I use postulate. I write down the date and I write down what the postulate is that I have to do. And when I complete it, I complete it on the right-hand side of the page, the date that I finished. So my goal is every day I sit down with a cup of coffee, I write down all the things I have to do, and I have that date is the date. So that's my start. My postulates are the things that I want to change. And then the date that I complete it is my stop. And my goal during that day is to complete as many cycles of action that I can. Because each time you complete a cycle of action, that's considered a win. And if we have a goal, and that goal is made up of 10 steps, then even if you only complete one step today, that's still a win. That means you have 9 steps to go. And if you just focus, or if we just focus on one step at a time, then eventually we will complete what it is that we started out to complete. But one of the things that we deal with, I think, just even as original people, some of us have the ability to start something, but we can't change it. Therefore, we can't complete it. Some of us will start something, we'll work on it, but we never complete it. Some of us decide not to start anything because we fear success, because with success comes responsibility, or we fail to start something because we have a fear of failure. So because we fear success and we fear failure, what do? We do nothing. So we complain that Allah tells us, our Savior tells us, sit yourself in heaven at once. And if we're not in heaven right now, then that's because there's something that we haven't started, something we haven't changed, and something we haven't completed. So what's happening? We're just going back and forth every day. We're going back and forth. And then nothing changes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I thought I was losing my mind. Thank you. You have put some reason, rationale, and reason to it. Thank you. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you.
So, does anyone else have any questions before we get started?
Brother, real quick, may I ask a quick question or comment and have you elaborate on it?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
We're talking about auditing. I'm a lazy auditor. I would like for you to touch on, I believe I am a lazy auditor, well, lazy person. I go into locationals. I may do a locational on somebody for 2 weeks. Then I go into self-analysis. And you gave me this idea mathematically. I'm figuring out because if I do that, I give them the PC pre-clear more strength. So I don't have to go back and forth if and when I do go in Dynetics. Can you just touch on that a little bit?
So what's your specific question?
Well, that's what I do because I may not be able to get into the Ngram in Dynetic. They may not have enough clean energy. That's what I'm going to use, clean energy. I just wanted you to make a comment on my thought. That's just the way that I feel.
So your question is with regards to actually making contact with the Ngram.
Right. I go into locational first, then self-analysis to clean it up. What do you feel about that? That's my mathematical equation, I guess you would say.
Well, I'll give my opinion.
Okay.
And I've encountered the same thing because sometimes what happens in auditing, we're trying to make that connection and get at the root of what the problem is. But when you have these Ngramic commands, when you have the bouncers, you have the deniers, the groupers, the holders, the misdirectors, what happens is that might actually cause a frustration for the auditor. So then what has happened is, and we're gonna get into flows and ridges today, what happens is that coming in contact with these Ngramic commands in the pre-clear has presented itself as a ridge for the auditor. So now, because it has brought up a frustration in us, we have become perhaps slightly aberrated as a result of the aberration of the pre-clear. And in the book, the Dynetics, he talks about what's called contagion of aberration, which is why as a pre-clear, we have to be at a certain tone before we even get into the process of auditing. So if you're doing a lot of auditing, the main thing I would say is make sure you're doing you're receiving a lot of processing yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, sir. And you are correct to say that. You are very correct, because I've experienced years ago when I didn't have a lot of data, I was auditing and wasn't getting auditing, and I can see what it does to you. But that's a blessing, because that forced me to deal with locationals and self-analysis to get the pre-clear cleaned up so I'm not interpolated. So, okay. Thank you, brother, for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I see Sister Joy made her way in. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Joy. You're on mute, sister.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum. I miss everybody. I've been a little MIA. My youngest, my 14-year-old, is officially in softball season. So her practices and games are running consecutive with a lot of the meetings I usually get on. So I'm able to hop on this one, but Sundays, they usually have practice at 5, and so I'm on the softball field helping and getting dirty too. So inshallah, me and my husband will be able to work out a better schedule. But miss everybody. I'm here today.
Praise be to Allah.
And learning already, so thank you.
You're very welcome. Brother Clinton made it. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Clinton.
My name's Salam family. I'm so happy to be here as a part of the audience. And I really truly missed Sunday, but I was tired of doing nation business. But by the grace of Allah, I hope I can maybe catch the recording. Brother Lukman, I know you got your hands full, brother. So I'm here, and by the grace of Allah, I know I'm going to be well fed.
Right. And we got Brother William with us. Assalamu alaikum, Brother William.
Walaikum salam, sir, and family.
And we got Sister Pamela with us today. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Pamela.
Walaikum salam.
All right. So let us begin. I pray that we are well fed today by Allah's grace. See if I can arrange my screen. All right. And we have revealed the book to be explaining all things and a guidance and mercy and good news for those who submit. That's one of the foundations we stand on, which helps us to understand that no matter what truths we find in this universe, no matter what truths we find in any ideology, if it's truth, it's already in the Holy Quran. We just have to continue our study to find it in that which we have already received. Let's see, put this over here. Okay. So the topic today is going to be flow and ridges. Come on, thing here. So before we get started, however, there's one thing I want to do before we get started. That's what it was. Because this is going to be something a little different today. Now, I'm going to pose a question and just show by, you can raise the hand on if you're not on the camera, just hit the hand button, because I need an actual count on this, and this will make sense at the end. We have with us 12, 13, we got 15 people. Okay. How many of us do not understand algebra? Just raise your hand up. Either raise your physical hand or raise your hand on the screen so I can get an actual count. How many people do not understand? Keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's good. Okay. So we have 8 people that do not understand algebra. Now, what we're going to do today is part of a concept called creative processing. And today we're going to conduct the class in such a way, at the end, I'm going to, how can I say this? Wait until you see the results at the end. That's all I'm going to say. Sister Deborah, you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
No, sir. I was just raising my hand. I was one of those who took algebra in school, but still don't have a clue.
Okay. Well, watch what happens at the end of today's session.
Okay.
I have faith in everybody. Okay. Let me do this. So we're going to do it flows and ridges. So today what we're going to deal with 2 concepts, and we're going to look at flows and ridges, and we're going to tie this in with mathematics, and we're going to use mathematics as like a demo kit to show the cause and the effect of flows and ridges, and how we can better understand how this process actually happens within our own mind. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first thing we want to do is, here's our learning objectives for today. We're going to get a few words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with regards to our lessons. We're going to have a few words from Mother Tanetta Muhammad, a quote from the Final Call newspaper. We're going to go into the dynamics of flows and ridges, and then we're going to summarize everything. So, understanding our lessons. First, we want to start with a word from our minister. And let me see if I can pull this up. Where you at? And you are, where you at? Here we go. Nope. I'm trying to juggle two different things here. Come on, computer, work with me. Okay, here we go. Does everybody see this on this, see the minister on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go here.
And that's the way you and I are. And that's the way you and I are. You got lessons. You got lessons in your possession. But you haven't studied your lessons. Some of you run around. You in the room and rules the biscuit. Oh, that's so simple. I learned that in just a few minutes. When I came in, you know. And then ask yourself, why did he call it the rules of this one? Why is it 10? Why not 7? Why not 6? Why 10? What is the science behind it? What is the science behind the number? 196,940,000 square miles. If that is the exact square miles of the earth, then what is the science of the numbers and what do the numbers mean? And if he tell you that the diameter is 7,926, what's the science behind that number? And if he tell you that the population of the original nation is 4,400,000,000, what's the science behind that number? See, you don't know your lessons yet. You haven't even finished your student enrollment. You don't know. You don't know. Why do they call it student enrollment? What does the word enrollment mean? And what if you become a student now? And if you're a student enrolling, then who is your teacher? And you don't even know where your classroom is. I ain't the hell could you be running on studying astrology and you're a student enrolling? Who your teacher is? You got a lot to learn. And that's the way you and I are.
So did everyone hear that?
Yes, sir.
What's your feedback on that?
Bellotman, I'll offer.
Hmm?
As I will offer, I said, as I was listening to the minister, it made me feel like I'm starting all over again. It's like I never enrolled in the classroom. I never became a student.
It's like, I got a lot of work to do.
We all do, sister. We all do. You know, I think we mentioned this last time, and that is, you know, we memorize our student enrollment and our actual facts. At least when I came in, you had to recite the question and the answer, and then you had to do all 20 actual facts in order. But what happened was, for some of us, is once we got in, we didn't take the time to start learning our lessons. We didn't take the time to start going over Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1,
Right.
Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, and the problem book. And, you know, can you imagine, you know, what if we received a phone call today or a Zoom meeting, and someone, you know, it was someone from Chicago, and they said, look, we want to ask you a couple of questions, and you have to answer them right now. And in order to hold on to your Muhammad, you had to recite your student enrollment actual facts.
I don't know why my business.
You had to go back to your ex. How many of us would lose our Muhammad? So one of the goals is just to inspire in us a desire to go back into our lessons again. And those are in this room are just a small percentage of a larger group. Many of us, and I'm not gonna sit here and as though I have the whole Supreme Wisdom memorized. I do not. But this is just to inspire in us a desire. And if we have to start back from scratch, then so be it. That to be able to start over is in itself a blessing. Sister Barbara.
Sister Kimber can go ahead. I gotta take this phone call.
Okay, Brother William.
I think Sister said Sister Kimber or someone was in front of me.
Sister Kimber, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. Assalamu
Salam.
What I've got out of that, the short video, was to the fact that we basically need to clear every word that we read to understand really what we're reading, because sometimes we know what the word is, but do we know the meaning of the word in its context?
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, as we say, that's where we get all the misunderstanding words, is
Mhm.
because we really don't understand the English language. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Go ahead, Sister Barbara.
It reminds me exactly what Sister Kimber was saying, because I wrote down little words as the minister was speaking, and it reminded me when he said that all of us are students, and if we just go back and parse the words like he said, we'll find that we are a student. We will never graduate. We will never, even though we will be elevated to growth and development, but we will always be a student because it's on a quest for knowledge. And it just go back to me. It's like when you said that, I was like, okay, is this a sign of something? You know, when you said, if, you know, we get a call or anything can happen. I mean, to get into to the new world, do we know it? So now I have to, you know, go back and start from day one with the Supreme Wisdom. Thank you.
Ma'am. And what I will do is I will send out in an email the format that Mother Tanetta Muhammad used to, she had a format of how to study the Supreme Wisdom in 1 week, where every week you go from start to finish, you complete it, then Sunday you start to finish, and I'll send that format out so that we have that as well. I got Brother William first and then Brother Clinton. Brother William, go ahead.
Yes, sir. What I took from that is, I know when I first entered into the ranks, given all of this new information that I had not been exposed to previously, and being one who had a propensity for mathematics. I wanted to delve in further, yet it did not seem that there was anyone that could verify or confirm if I would have arrived at a correct answer or not, because I didn't have all of the information necessary to complete the equation, if that makes sense. And so with not being able to gain any verification of whether my work would be correct or not, I just never bothered to go any further with looking at it, because there was no way to say whether I arrived at something correctly or incorrectly.
And one thing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said was, he said, when you deal with and I'm paraphrasing it, and if anyone has heard this, please, just chime in just to give verification for the reference. But Minister Farrakhan said that when I believe he was saying it when you're talking about the problem book, those questions are not made to be taken literally. So as you're studying the information, as you're going through the lessons, as you're going through the problem book, you have to find what it is that Allah will show you. And then when you take your piece of bread and you bring it to other people who are studying and they find certain things, you'll get excited hearing other people share what they find. They'll get excited sharing what you find. And what happens to the tone scale? The tone goes up. Now, I'll give you an example of something that I was blessed to see in the actual facts. Has anyone ever heard the statement that no man is an island? Okay.
Yes, sir.
No man is an island. What does that mean?
We stand on each other's shoulders and learn from each other.
We learn from each other, but for no man
stands alone.
Huh?
You're not by yourself.
No man stands alone.
No man stands alone. No man is an island. Okay, so now watch how this works. So we have no man is alone, but now ask yourself the question, what is an island? An island is a landmass surrounded on all sides by water, correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we say surrounded by water, water represents what symbolically?
People,
Knowledge.
mind, and everything else.
Okay, so we say water represents knowledge, information.
Mhm.
To be surrounded on all sides by water would mean that you have how many degrees of water or how many degrees of wisdom?
360.
360.
Okay, so if an island could represent a man, if an island is a demo kit to represent an individual, what type of individual would he be?
I didn't
Source of
hear.
knowledge.
Can you
A
repeat
source of knowledge.
Say that one more time, Sister Sharon.
A source of knowledge.
A source of knowledge. Perhaps he has 360 degrees of wisdom.
He knows it all.
Huh?
He knows it all.
Okay, now,
Yeah.
what is the square mileage of the islands? That's actual fact number 11. What is the square mileage of the islands?
1,910,000 square miles.
Okay, 1,910,000 square miles. What year do you see in that number?
Oh, 1910. Wow, damn it.
What is the significance of 1910?
That's the time that the master came to America.
That's the date that the Savior came to America, 1910, right? Wasn't he a man that came with 360 degrees of wisdom?
Absolutely.
So there's connections, the supreme wisdom is kind of like a puzzle, and the more, as the minister said, the more we get in contact with Dianetics, our supreme wisdom is like a chest, a treasure chest, but we haven't been able to get into it. So in that clip that I showed you with the minister, these numbers represent certain things. These numbers represent certain concepts. And the more we dig, the more information we will find. But we will dig, we will find based on our understanding. I haven't forgotten about you, Brother Clinton. Now, Brother William, for example, if you look at problem book question number 1, problem book question number 1 says the uncle of W.D. Farad lived in the wilderness of North America and lived other than his own self. Therefore, his pulse beat at 78 beats per minute, and this killed him in 45 years of age. Now, specifically for Brother William, why is it that we can't use 78 beats per minute for all 45 years of his lifespan?
Because the heart rate is going to change depending on his activity.
So what's the heart rate when you deal with pediatrics or children or infants?
It can be over 100.
Right. So now if an infant is born and their heart rate is around 70 beats per minute, that's called, that infant is in what?
Bradycardia.
Which in the terms of pediatric cardiology, that infant is almost in cardiac arrest. So that question can't be solved as is. We can't take it literally, which I'm just verifying your original statement.
Yes, sir.
But there's more in it, because remember, the Savior taught using pictures. So these problems can produce pictures for us to study, or as L. Ron Hubbard says, mock up in our own thinking. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Brother Clinton first, Brother Eric second. Go ahead, Brother Clinton.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. What I got from that clip, as you said, is that we should study our lessons. And we were taught to study it by heart, to know it by heart. It doesn't mean just to memorize it. It means, like Sister before explained, parsing it, know the meaning of it. And you said, get what you can out of it, put it with those others who got something from it, and pardon me, and we will make a whole. So studying by heart, meaning not just memorizing, but getting the meaning of it.
Mm-hmm. And a good reason to memorize the lessons, and this is just something that I do. If I'm driving long distance, I have a tendency not to listen to the radio. So I'll sit in silence and I'll go over a particular lesson, just in my mind. And as I go over and over and over it, I'll begin to pick up things from that lesson. So it's like the God teaching from within information that is stored, like in the words of Brother Batim, our lessons represent fundamentals, and based on our level of understanding, we'll begin to see the different harmonics or levels that are contained within it. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Brother Eric.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you are accosting this kind of a problem. First of all, let me say what the book started with, mostly when it comes to the problem book. It said, this book teaches the lost foundation of Islam a thorough knowledge of our miserable condition, right? In a mathematical way, not in mathematics, in a mathematical way. When we were found by our Savior, W.D. Farad. So now, if you look at it, even before we were introduced to the actual fact and student enrollment, it started with problem number 13. And this is a problem every Muslim in the nation love, because he said luxury, money, good home, friendship in all walks of life. But what is he saying to us? because everybody think luxury means the plushy things that we have. But in fact, it's talking something different, because what it's talking about, you have to get land. And from the land, you can produce the luxury that you need, because everything luxurious comes from land, number one. Money. So, you know, if here in America, we call it dollar. If I go to France, it's franc. If I go to Canada, it's going to be a dollar. Every country has a denomination for their currency. So now we have to go beyond that word money. So what is he talking about? Because money is only a mean of exchange. So now, as you're producing on your land, so now you can exchange your product for what we call money. So now you start having it. So now what about a good homes? It doesn't mean having a big house. It doesn't have a small house. What is a home? And the song said, a house is not a home. So therefore he's inviting us to get ourselves a mate or get married to create a family. So now when we got that family, we can build that good home because you're bringing peace in it, harmony, love, and children all over. So now you got a base to work on. And once you got those three basic, so now you can have good friends in all walks of life. So now it's up to us. So that's one of the things. And you mentioned problem number 1 and number 2. And all of these are not giving because they wanted to take a calculator and start calculating. No, because number 1 and number 2 deal with illness, disease. Why? Because we are eating the wrong kind of food. So now who's producing your food? Who's producing my food? So we are buying food from the enemy. So therefore he can give us GMO while we could get organic. So now with those two, he's inviting you to start planting on your land, because the reward, whether in the Bible or Holy Quran, is gardens in which rivers flow. And other places a garden in which milk and honey flow. You don't have milk coming from the sky, so you have to get a livestock. And what kind of livestock give you milk? Cow, goat, sheep, this kind of thing. So now you start building. And once you have those things, it gives you all the riches that you want, right? And number 4 and number 5 and number 6 deal with another kind of a disease. So now they still die. Why? Because we don't have a hospital. Where is your hospital? Where is your doctor? Where are your nurses? Where are all of these things? So now the pharmacy, you keep paying every visit to the doctor, you give them $250. And every pills that you got to buy, you have to pay for the pills. So it's not talking to how much it's costing you. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but all he wants to know, when are you going to get your own hospital where you can hire your own people to take care of you? All right, so I think I said enough. Thank you very much, my brother, because you are releasing a power right now.
Praise be to
Assalamu
Allah.
alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Now let's take what you said and just take it a step further before we start hitting the actual PowerPoints. To get the luxury, the money, the good homes, and the friendships in all walks of life externally, they first have to materialize where? Come on, Sister Cheryl.
In the vision, the mind.
Right. So we want the luxury, the money, the good homes and friends in all walks of life, but we want it if we're not studying our lesson.
Clients and personnel. We currently have limited on-site.
If we're not studying our lessons, then that would imply, at least to me, that we want the luxury, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life without understanding that mathematics is Islam and Islam is mathematics. So we don't want to seek ye first the kingdom and all its righteousness, and then all things will be added unto you. We're seeking after the things to be added without seeking the kingdom. When you look at gardens with which rivers flow, and if you clear those words in Arabic, the gardens which rivers flow on the outside is a representation of the garden that's here, and flow is what we're going to actually be talking about today. So, you know, you actually touched on our presentation, the concept of flow with regards to getting the luxury, the money, the good homes, and the friendships in all walks of life. So does everyone follow with that so far up to this point?
Yes, sir.
That's a key point. We want those things.
Yes, sir.
But there's something else that has to take place before we get here. All right.
And I did not ask, he said, once you add those, then you can say, you are seating yourself in heaven.
Yes. Yes.
And that's it.
That's it, brother. That's it. We want to sit ourselves in heaven at once. Here we go. Okay. So let's get back to. Okay. So now we have words from Mother Tanetta Muhammad, and this is from the Final Call newspaper dated June 6, 2008. She says, we are learning that the use of mathematics is revealing many hidden truths. The use of numbers, letters, and words is the methodology introduced to us upon the coming of the wise master, W.F. Muhammad, the great Mahdi. With this body of knowledge called the Supreme Wisdom, we are able to illumine passages of the Bible and the Holy Quran, which are now being fulfilled in our lifetime and in generations to come. And then she says, the language of mathematics undergirds the art and sciences of an advanced civilization, which was never taught to us from our former slave masters, because these studies would guide us into independence, the basis of building our own civilization, culture, and world. So now we're going to flows and ridges. So we're going to use, basically what we're going to do is we're going to take an equation. We're going to use this equation as what we call a demo kit. And then what we will do is we will use that demo kit and the concept of flow to understand how the mind operates. But we're also going to use this at the same time, we're going to study something about our actual facts and the problem book. So we're going to learn multiple things at one time, but we can do that because we're God. We can do those things. So we're going to deal with what is a flow, what is a ridge, what is an equation, and how can an equation be used to illustrate flows and ridges. Now, in the beginning, I had posed the question, how many people did not understand algebra? And based on the numbers of hands that went up, our percentage is about 53%. So about half understand algebra and the other half do not. That's going to be a very important number to remember. So what is a flow? Allah says in the Holy Quran, and we shall remove whatever of ill feeling is in their hearts. Rivers flow beneath them. And they say, all praise is due to Allah who guided us to this. And we would not have found the way if Allah had not guided us. Certainly the messengers of our Lord brought the truth, and it will be cried out to them, this is the garden which you are made to inherit for what you did. So there's a relationship between garden and hearts. And when you deal with the word heart in Arabic, the word is kalaba, which also means mind. It means spirit. It means the core of our being. So the word flow, by definition, simply means to move with a continual change of place among the constituent particles. Okay, let me put this back over here. In Arabic, Try to slide these things around here. In Arabic, the word means to proceed. It means to be in agreement. So when you have ARC in Dianetics, that would be synonymous with the word Tadri in Arabic. It's to be in agreement with something. You're flowing with it. When individuals are playing musical instruments and they just improvise, we can say that the music was just flowing. Everything is just running harmoniously in agreement. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To flow means to be able to follow, and it also means to put into effect. So what we want to do is we're going to take one basic equation. Since it's the mathematics workshop, we're going to take one basic equation and we're going to understand how to gain ARC with that equation. And based on what we're sharing with you today, you can take this process to understand any mathematical equation. And within 5 to 10 minutes, you'll be able to master that equation. You'll be able to follow the equation, meaning go from one point to another. You're going to flow through the equation and understand every point and understand how to start it, the process of change, and how to complete it. Is all of this making sense up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the goal is at the completion of this workshop to raise that percentage from 53% up to, I'm gonna hopefully within the 80 or 90% range, which means those whose hands went up at the beginning will have a better understanding of algebra before we complete the workshop. So now in Dianetics, flow means an impulse or direction of energy particles or thought or masses between terminals. So flow is dealing with thought energy. Have you ever heard Minister Farrakhan teach on a subject and you begin to understand what he's saying and how it raised your tone up just by understanding what he was saying? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So at that point in time, what were you doing? You were flowing with the minister. You and I were aligning our thought with his thought. So our tone scale was harmonizing with the minister as he was teaching. In Dianetics, flow is also defined as the progress of particles or impulses or waves from point A to point B. So flow has the connotation of being somewhat directional. So when something flows, it's either going forward or backward, up or down, to and fro. So flow represents direction. They also say that flow is a progress of energy between 2 points. The points may have masses. The points are fixed, and the fixedness of the points and their opposition produces the phenomena of flow. So we're going to look at flow from the perspective of thought, and we're going to look at flow from the perspective of mathematics, and we're going to connect all of this to understanding ourselves and Dianetics all at the same time. Does anyone have any questions with regards to flow? Any questions on flow? Okay, we'll move forward. So any line of flow, whether contracting or lengthening, is called a flow. A common manifestation is seen in an electric light wire. So when you go into a room and the light is off, basically what has happened is that switch has disconnected the flow. There's a gap in the wire. So by closing that gap, you allow the energy to flow through that line and the light comes on. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there's a relationship between flow and the lights coming on. And we'll go deeper into that at another time when we'll deal with the physics of what's called Ohm's law. That illustrates the concept perfectly. Now, a ridge. What is a ridge? A ridge is caused by two energy flows coinciding and causing an turbulence of energy, which on examination is found to take on a characteristic which in energy flows is very like matter, having its particles in chaotic mixture. Now, here's an example of a ridge. Now, all of us have probably experienced this at one time or another. We're outside playing and we stop to get a drink from the garden hose. So we get a drink from the garden hose, and then to keep from spraying the other person, we put a bend in that garden hose to keep the water from going out. And then when the other person is ready, we unkink the hose and the water flows out and the other person can have a drink. Have we ever experienced that before? So when you put a bend in that hose, that's a ridge. And a ridge is designed to keep the water from flowing. We have ridges in our mind that keeps our thoughts from flowing. So I can't remember who it was that, I think it was Sister Dorana, that thing that causes us to go back and forth, there's a ridge in there that keeps our thoughts from flowing. So we don't think, we're stuck.
Is that like the movie Groundhog Day? You just keep reliving it over and over again, and you have to somehow break the cycle?
That's one way of looking at it, because when you deal with cycles, there's when you're doing the same thing with the thought you're going to get a different result. They say that's the definition for insanity. Well, we all have cycles. We all have things that we do that we're stuck in. So there's certain aberrative behavior we still have. Now that we have the Dianetics, we have the tech, we can kind of understand why we do what we do. And it's the understanding of what we do that allows us to break the cycle. Minister Farrakhan said it like this, that when you find something in yourself, that little black spot, rejoice. And now you can apply spot remover. So it's a blessing to see the defect in self, because we're living in a day of the manifestation of defects, because we can't clean out something unless we know it's there. So by identifying something is a blessing, because now we can work on it. Groundhog Day for us would be being in a cycle over and over again, and we either don't realize we're stuck in a cycle, or we're in a cycle and we have no desire to come out of it. So when you see our people in the streets, they're still stuck in a cycle, and we try to bring to them the teachings. We try to give them the Final Call newspaper, but some of our people are so stuck in that cycle that they themselves don't even believe they can get out. There are brothers and sisters in the nation right now that won't get audited because they may not believe they can be relieved of the pain from their past. So we will continue to be in these cycles until what? Until we break the cycle. Allah says in the Holy Quran, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change their own condition.
Mm-hmm.
So a ridge is formed from two flows, and these two flows hitting will pile things up. Think of the wintertime. For those of you that are in areas where there's a lot of snow, when two cars hit, that's two flows. And when they hit, they form what's called a ridge. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So
sir.
as they hit and they make contact, now they're stuck in the middle of the road. What happens to the traffic behind them?
Backed up.
Traffic, well, if it's a snowstorm, not only will it get backed up, but you'll have a pileup.
Yes, sir.
So the traffic from both directions, not being able to stop in time, a 2-car motor vehicle accident can become a 10-car motor vehicle accident.
Mhm.
The same concept happens in our mind, where, and I think I have it right. Well, I'll get to that point when I get to the point here, but a ridge is essentially suspended energy in space. So a ridge is our thoughts are stuck. We're not going anywhere. We're stuck on that maybe. We have a great idea, and there's a saying, I'm trying to think of the name of the book, but it says that every person has at least $2 million ideas every year. And the reason why we're not millionaires right now is because we don't move out on the idea. Why? Because we don't believe, we don't have enough, we don't love ourselves to think that Allah would give us an idea that would provide us with the luxury, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life. And some of us, I don't think anyone in this Zoom would think this, but some of us think that we can pray and then all of a sudden a pile of money is going to appear on the prayer rug.
Mystery God.
Mystery God. Now, I will bear witness to this, and this doesn't make me any different than anyone that's on the Zoom meeting. But
Me neither.
these Zoom meetings, these PowerPoints are the result of a thought that comes to me by the grace of Allah. And then I just take the thought and I try to say, okay, and I go with the flow, and I'm just as amazed with how it comes together because I know it wasn't me. So Surah 96 says, you read in the name of your Lord who creates, who teaches man by the pen what man knew not. Except today, he teaches by the computer what man knew not, because I didn't use a pen. But the ideas come from Allah. And then he says, okay, you take this idea and build a heaven for yourself. I'm gonna give you the idea. You got to turn that idea into luxury, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life. But we have these ridges in our mind because we doubt that we'll be successful. And we fear being, and we either doubt that we'll be successful, we fear failure, and we fear success. Because with success, responsibility. With success comes more work. So it comes about by flows, dispersals, or ridges impinging against one another with a sufficient solidity to cause an enduring state of energy. Yes, Sister Ania, Brother Wahid.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Okay. I had a comment earlier when you gave that verse out of the Quran, but I couldn't find the thing to raise my hand. When the quote from the Holy Quran about Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change their own condition, I had a little cognition on that, and I wanted to ask you about the Arabic words for condition. Is it the same word used in both incidences in the Arabic? Because I thought about, as you said, my thought was, if the condition of a people until they change the condition of.
You still there? Did we just lose Sister Ania?
It looked like yes, we lost it, looked like it from here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, the signal keeps dropping.
Okay.
So back to the two conditions, Allah does not change the condition of a people in the physical sense until they change the condition of their mind. That was the cognition that came through.
Okay.
For me.
So your question is, what is the Arabic word for?
Before we can, before they can. So in other words, before there can be a physical change in our condition, there has to be a change in the condition of our mind, the way we think. And as you said there, if we're thinking that we can't succeed, it's not possible, then we'll never get to that point where we'll be able to change the condition, because we won't change from thinking that we can't succeed.
What?
So I just wondered if when you study the Arabic, if they are the same words used for both conditions there.
Okay. If you could, being that I would have to go back on the PowerPoint, can you pull up the verse, the surah and the ayat real quick?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, I will have to.
Does anybody else have it?
Still looking.
Is it 13:11?
Surah
I
13.
don't have the. Yeah, I think you can try that. I don't have the whole Quran with me.
If not, I'll just go back to the beginning of and pull it up there. And I can pull up the word real quick.
13:11, that's what it is.
Okay. Does not change the condition.
It says Allah will not change the condition of a people as long as they do not change their.
Okay. So, Sister Ania, it says change the condition of a people until they change what is. So, another translation of their condition is to change what's in themselves. That's one. The Arabic is anfusahim, which is derived from the root word nafs. And the word nafs means mind, spirit, soul. So you're right. Change their condition translates to change what's in their mind. That's the Arabic.
Alhamdulillah.
That's the Arabic. So it goes back to what we were saying before, when Brother Eric was mentioning the luxury money, good homes, and it ties back to, we can have all those things, but we have to change the way we think. And once we change the way we think, then we can gain all these things. Brother Eric, you had your hand up.
Since she on the word condition, we have to remember also there is something called ethics.
Yes.
And the condition are attached to ethics. And the worst condition one can be, according to the book of ethics, is the state of confusion. Because when you are confused, you are worse than a traitor. You are in the lowest of the rank. So now Allah find us as dead. So now if you're dead, you are even lesser than confused. So now we have to raise our condition from the position of confusion to the position of power. power being the highest level of your condition.
Yes, sir.
So now there are ways to do it, and that's why we are giving ethics. And if you look at the general orders, if you look at restrictive laws of Islam, what is it talking to you? It's telling you to be honest with yourself. Once you can be honest, now people can give you respect. So people can trust you, can trust me. So now, and this is why we have to learn those things. And once we become in that state, now we can ascend to power. The ascension to power, it has nothing to do with how much money you get, because you may have all the monies of the world and you are a worse rascal that could be. And this is a quote from the messenger of Allah. He said, as a people, we must become producers and not remain consumers and employees. We must be able to extract raw material from the earth and manufacture them into something useful for ourselves. This would create jobs in production. We must remember that without land, there is no production. And that is from page 56 of Message to the Black Man. So right there, that attach all of these things to problem number 13 and to what you are trying to teach us right now. That's what I see.
Yes, sir. Sister Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, Assalamualaikum. The question that I had was, you know, Allah doesn't change the condition of a people until they first change themselves. But if you don't know you're in a condition, how do you change yourself or change your mind? That's one question I've always had. And also, you know, you won't know unless somebody brings you that information. But what if you're like, you know, some of the lost founds out in the world, they just don't know that they're in a condition. So how are they able to change themselves if they don't know that they're in a condition?
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, how would they know unless they have a teacher? How would they have a teacher unless he be sent? That's one way of looking at it.
Yes, sir.
For us individually, the minister teaches us about the awakening of the self-accusing spirit. So there's something within us that'll let us know that something's not right. So then it goes back to what Brother Eric said. Then we have to have ethics and be honest with ourselves. And we have to be able and willing to begin to change the things within ourselves. In the Holy Quran, in the very first section of Surah number 2, it says, I am the best knower. This book, there's no doubt in it. It is a guide to those who keep their duty, who believe in the unseen, keep up prayer, and who spend out of what we have given them, who believe in that which has been revealed to thee and that which was revealed before thee, and of it hereafter they are sure. These are on a right course from their Lord, and these it is that are successful. Then it says, those who disbelieve, it being alike to them whether thou warn them or warn them not. Allah has sealed their hearts in their hearing, and there is a covering on their eyes, and for them is a grievous chastisement. Now, we can't determine whose hearts are sealed or not. Our job is just to deliver the message, because we shouldn't be picking and choosing. We should try to touch as many people as we can. But when in regards to ourselves, we got to listen to that self-accusing spirit. And we know when we ain't doing what we need to be doing.
Yes, sir.
One of the things we do is we justify.
Yes, sir.
We use, the minister says, deceptive intelligence. But I believe if our intentions are pure and we are striving, then out of Allah's mercy, he will guide us in the direction we need to go. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Thank you, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Ania.
When you were answering the sister's question, and it made me think of the movie that you told us to watch, Little Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
When the brother I guess he was the prince or the emperor's son or whatever in the movie. When, as long as he was in the city, being carted around, carried around, and getting the adulation of the people, that was all he knew. And it wasn't until two beggars came up to his carriage that he had never seen before, and he had never seen people, old and thin, where you could see their ribs because they didn't have anything to eat. And so he became aware of something that he knew something was wrong, that this was different from what he knew. And so, as you said about the self-accusing spirit, something in him, he knew that something was wrong, that this was different and that something was wrong. And so when his self-accusing spirit rose up in him, then he left the city and he went in search of knowledge. That was what I got from what you were saying, is that he then went out in search of knowledge. And even then, in search of knowledge, when he thought he had found the right knowledge and stayed with that for a time, and again, something else came to him and he realized he was on the wrong path, and he kept switching until he finally came to the proper enlightenment. So that's what it made me think.
One of the beautiful lessons of that movie, and I mean, I remember seeing that movie when it came out back around 1990, I think 93 or 94. One of the points in the Buddha's life is there was a boat that was traveling past him while he was doing severe fasting. And some scholars say that the Buddha would eat as little as 1 grain of rice per day. And then he heard a boat was passing by, and there was a person that was on the boat playing an instrument that was similar to what we might call a guitar. It's a stringed instrument. And he heard the person say something, and it resonated with him. And the person said, if you tie the strings too tight, the strings will break. But if you tie the strings too loose, they won't make any music. And then he realized the middle path. If you wear your religion like a straitjacket, I think, as the minister has said, then you get to the point where you don't want to practice your religion. But if you wear your religion too loose, there won't be no benefit. So that was just something from that movie. As you were saying, that popped back in my head. Anyway, Brother Eric, but yes, thank you, Sasania.
And also, you got that question that was raised in the Supreme Wisdom. What is the duty of a civilized man? So now, it's to give civilization to the uncivilized. But yes, okay. At that point, if this is your duty, that is also your duty to Allah. Because Allah, you say you have duties to Allah, but what is that duty? That duty is first to educate yourself. And from what you learn, to go and help others to come up their whole. So at that point, this is the duty that is imposed on all of us as Muslim and believers, because the more you can work on this guy, so the more that guy now can assist another person to come to the way of a civilized people. So at that point, why did Muhammad make the devil steady 30 to 40 years? Okay, he said, so that what? He can come, first of all, he has to learn so that you don't kill him as fast as you would kill another devil. Okay, that's one way. And at the same time, you teach him so that he can come and do trade with you in this sense. Because when he comes around you, he's not going to bring you the funk of the world. So he's coming in your own way. So at that point, we are helping our own society to remain as it ought to be. I think that says enough.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Thank you, brother. Let's see. Let's get into the math. There's one other thing I want to touch on first, though. L. Ron Hubbard says that Ridges, however, exist in suspension around a person and are the foundation upon which facsimiles are built. So when you deal with a ridge, you're dealing with effort versus counter effort. So some of us may actually have ridges based on mathematics as a result of things that happened to us while we were in school. Some of us might have tried to do a math problem, and then we got it, you know how they used to call us up to the front of the classroom to do the math, and we got it wrong. And then, you know, the teacher might have said something smart, or other students might have laughed or made fun of us. And as a result, we have engrams based on math for some of us. But now something I saw interesting in this was the relationship between ridges, flow ridges, and dispersals. And I think we can use this concept before we hit the math real quick. And I think we've all encountered this at one point in time or another. But two ridges, or effort and counter effort, could be desire and frustration. How many of us have had a desire to accomplish something, and then the more we hit roadblocks, that actually killed our desire?
Yes, sir.
So Minister Farrakhan actually goes into this in depth in, I think it's study guide number 2, Building Human Potential. I think that's which one he did, that one, or no, Overcoming Difficulty, study guide number 3. He says that sometimes the trial, and I'm paraphrasing, the trials of life will put out the flame of our desire. So there's many things in life we have started, but the Most High Elijah Muhammad teaches us in Message to the Black Man, I can't think of the exact page number, but he says that everything in its infancy has difficulty or has trouble. So that trouble or that difficulty is like the universe testing you to see how bad you want it. There's an old saying that you can have anything in life that you want, but you got to work for it. And if you look at any goal can be arranged as steps or gradients. And as we accomplish each gradient, we get closer and closer to the goal. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that the closer you get to the goal, there's an increase in the difficulty factor. It's like Allah is saying, okay, if you want it, how bad do you want it? I'm gonna put this in front of you. Okay, you overcome that, I'm gonna try you with this one. Think of how the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad tried the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and then think that if we are to get to where he is, we have to go through that same process. We have to go through a gradient step of trial. We have to encounter difficulty factors, both within ourselves and outside of ourselves, before we can accomplish our goal. Anything we get too easy, we don't appreciate. We don't, if we didn't struggle to get it, it seems like it's just not as valuable as something we had to work hard for. And then for some of us, once we've accomplished a great goal, some of us decide not to strive for anything higher than that. Does that make sense?
You got more questions too?
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely.
Now, flows, ridges, and dispersals. I was looking at this, and as I looked at desire versus frustration, I said, this is a cycle of action. I'm gonna call this the cycle of frustration. The cycle of frustration is you have a flow, you encounter a ridge, and then you and I say, you know what, the hell with that, I'm gonna go do something else. That's a cycle of frustration. We start to study a subject. We encounter difficulty, and then we move on to something else and just say the hell with it. So our portfolio is full of activities, actions, and processes that we have started, but very few of them have we completed. Am I the only one, or can anyone else bear witness to that?
Okay.
So we have a
I've been
collection
witness.
of projects that we have started, but we haven't really completed anything.
Are you talking about me again?
Brother, the sword cuts two ways, brother. I'm talking about me. But if the shoe fits, then go ahead and put it on and walk around in it a little bit. So what we want to do
Thank you so
today,
much, Bishop.
William, go ahead, brother.
I
Was
said
that
it's
from-
so well it's hurting me.
Go ahead, brother William.
Yes, sir. I've encountered both aspects of it, starting a project and then saying the heck with it. But then I also have that kind of a personality that I won't let go of something once I have started it.
Well, that's
to the extent that maybe it bogs me down.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's a good characteristic to have. At least you hold on to it.
But can that also become an impediment, such as in our studies, medical studies, for instance, when I get tunnel vision on figuring out a certain process as opposed to just accepting what I've gained and learned of it and moving on to the next thing, I continue down that course of study that can sometimes be almost infinite because you can go to so many different layers and levels of it.
Sometimes when we get bogged down, and I've noticed this works for me, when I get bogged down on a subject, I'll put the subject down and take a step away from it. And sometimes when you step away from something, it's just like eating. You know, sometimes you got to chew your food, but you got to give your food time to digest. And unfortunately, in a college setting, specifically in medical school, you don't have enough time to digest because you have your workload is so intense.
Exactly.
But sometimes it's good to take a step away and give your brain a chance to chew on what it is that, you know, what you're studying.
I would just say that one analogy that a professor gave that fits perfectly is that medical school is like trying to take a drink of water from a fire hose. It's coming at you fast and rapid, and you just try to have to get as much as you can as it goes past.
And let me tell you, brother, you can't get a drink from a fire hose. Fire hose will take your head off.
That's correct.
Praise be to Allah. All right, equations. Now we're going to get into the meat of everything. What is an equation? An equation is basically a general fact, rule, or principle that's expressed in mathematical symbols. That's all it is. So it's a group of symbols. It could either be letters or numbers that are used to express some information, some facts, or some data. So a mathematical theology could be the study of Allah God or communication with Allah God through the language of symbols. So as we're studying mathematics and we're studying, you know, specifically algebra in the areas of mathematics, algebra is where things take on a new level because now you're dealing with letters and numbers. And I'm a firm believer that the way in which Allah speaks to us and the way in which we can complete a cycle of communication is like when Allah says in the Holy Quran, he has created the wind, he has created the rain, he has created these things. And in this is wisdom for those who understand. I see that as a cycle of communication where Allah is saying, here's the wind. And then when we can study the wind and when we understand that, we have completed a cycle of communication. Allah has given us something and we understand it. That's a cycle of communication with the Creator. So we're studying communication through the language of symbols. So to understand an equation, one must understand the elements, the operations, and the flow. And if you can understand these three concepts, you can understand any mathematical equation that exists. Because all you have to understand, number one, is there's only 4 operations: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. The hardest part about mathematics is not in those 4 operations, because I believe everyone on the meeting can understand how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. The confusion comes up with regards to the symbols and not understanding what the symbols mean. Can anyone bear witness to that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So an equation is composed of mathematical expressions. So here's what this means. An expression and an equation are not the same. An equation will have an equal sign in between, and an equation is composed of 2 expressions. So if I say 3 plus 2 and nothing else, that's an expression. That's a mathematical expression. If I say 9 minus 4, that's just a mathematical expression. So everyone here knows what 3 plus 2 is, right? Okay, and everyone knows what 9 minus 4 is. Those are 2 mathematical expressions. But once I put an equal sign in between it, it becomes an equation. So 3 plus 2 is equal to 9 minus 4. So what an equation is saying is what is on the left is equal to what is on the right. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So, okay, so I'm gonna assume everyone understands that. And an equation, in the word equation is the word equate or the word equal. So an equation has an equal sign. This over here is equal to this over here. Okay. Now we're going to deal specifically with a small equation with regards to circumference, but we're going to use this to understand the concept of flows and ridges, but we're also going to hit our problem book. So here's where you want to take out your calculators. Now typically in areas up to algebra, when I was teaching in the teaching the GED program, I didn't allow students to use calculators. I would say you use pencil and pen, but once you get to the area of algebra, you've already shown that you understand the operations. But for the sake of this, have your calculator, your scrap paper and your pencil, because we're about to do some mathematics now, but you're going to be able to handle it, trust me. So when you look at circumference, here's a formula. Now, I put the word cognition here for a reason. Whoever is willing to share what your cognition is when you look at that formula. What feelings come up when you see that formula? What thoughts come up when you see that formula?
I don't know the answer to it. I don't understand it.
Okay, who is that, Sister Sharon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Who else would like to share?
So circumference equal pi times diameter.
No, okay, don't go into it yet. I just want the cognitions. Sister Sharon said she doesn't understand it, and that's good. Now, let's start with Sister Sharon. What is it about that equation that you don't understand?
The 2 symbols, I know that's pi and the D is diameter, but I don't know what the C is. The numerical part of the C is.
Okay, so you're saying you don't know what the D is.
I know the D is diameter, right?
Okay, D is
And I
diameter.
know,
Wait,
right.
wait, before we go, does the D represent diameter?
To me,
Okay, because see, I'm gonna pick on you a little bit, but there's a reason why
Yes, sir.
I'm picking on you.
yes, sir.
Whenever you give an answer and your voice inflects up, that means you're not sure.
Right.
When your voice inflects down, that means you know, or you're faking that you know. So what does D represent?
Diameter.
Okay. So that symbol pi next to the letter D, what does that mean? If you don't know, that's good. There's a reason why I'm doing this.
That's what I think, but I don't know.
What is it that you think?
That the D is diameter.
Okay, but what is the relationship between the D and that symbol pi?
That it's circular. It's a circle.
Okay, so this formula is composed of four things.
Yes, sir.
You have the C, you have the equal sign,
Mm-hmm.
you have pi, and you have D, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you can identify all four of those things in that equation, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you know what pi is.
Mm-hmm.
What does pi equal?
I think 714.
You're close. You're close. So that pi represents a ridge.
Okay.
The circumference represents a ridge. And so the fact that you don't understand that equation, and I hope you don't mind me picking on you, but it's gonna pay off dividends in a minute. Are you okay, sister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can't flow. You're unable to flow through that equation because you got two ridges or two misunderstoods. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, correct?
Yes, sir.
So is it safe to say that if I was to explain those four components to you, and you were able to identify the elements, and then I showed you the operation you need to do, would you be able to solve that algebraic equation? Do you believe you can do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now watch this. So your elements here, C represents circumference.
Yes, sir.
Pi represents 3.14.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant.
Okay.
The D equals diameter. And we know the equal sign, that's telling me that my circumference is the same as saying pi. Now, when pi is next to D, what operation is that? If two letters are side by side, that represents an operation.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what that operation is?
Multiplication.
That's multiplication.
Multiplication?
Yes. Okay, now, you still with me, Sister Sharon?
So you said the pi and the D next to each other represents multiplication.
Right. When you have two letters that are side by side, that represents the operation of multiplication.
Multiplication, okay.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
So y'all with me?
Cognition.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now, Sister Sharon, explain to me that equation now.
Okay, so the C equals circumference. C equals pi times diameter.
Okay. So now, do you know what those four elements are?
Yes, sir.
So now we're about to do a flow. We're
Okay.
about to do a flow. We're going to go from point A to point B. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse the equation. There's a reason why I'm reversing. So it's the same equation, We're
Yes,
just
sir.
going in a different direction. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have pi next to d. That's multiplication. That's one expression is equal to circumference. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this equation, when you look at it from this perspective, represents a cycle of action.
Cycle of action.
So now a cycle of action simply means start, change, stop. You start something, something changes, and then something stops. That's one of the basic principles in Dianetics when you get up to, I think it might be science or survival, but I'm not 100% sure. But this concept you can use in anything. This concept, in the word of Brother Batin, would be considered like a fundamental. So your start represents the first input, which is pi. That's the first part of your equation. That's where we're going to start at. And I'm going to go slow here. That way you can take your notes, because I really want you to understand this, because once you understand this, the sky is the limit.
Brother Lukman,
Yes. Who am I
just-
speaking to?
I'm trying to follow. How did you get that terminology pi from that? Well, how did
That is a formula. When you deal with geometry, that's one of the formulas you have to use to calculate circumference.
and is it saying PIE or TIE?
Oh, PI. PI. That symbol is the Greek symbol for pi, PI.
Okay. Thank you.
So the change takes place when we multiply pi times d. So you have start, you have change. Then our stop is we understand the circumference. Now, guess what, family? Every equation follows this pattern. There's a start, there's a change, there's a stop. Does anyone have any questions up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I forgot what the D represents.
Not diameter.
Oh, right. But the pi has a number. Don't the diameter have one too?
Yes, ma'am. We're about to get into that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following the flow.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Like we say, ask every question you got. We want to clear these misunderstoods. You know, Brother Batin took us through a Quranic straight wire during Ramadan, so we can call this a mathematical straight wire.
Yes, yes, sir. Okay.
So here's where it's about. Brother William, go ahead.
Sir, at this point, would it be noted to put that some symbols like pi are constants, whereas some symbols like D for diameter may vary based on what kind of a circle or what size of a circle one may be looking at?
Go ahead and finish your thought, brother.
I was finished. But yeah, just to note that pi is going to be the same regardless of whatever size circle it is.
Yes, sir. And that's a very good point. And I thank you for bringing that up, because you have in equations, you have some symbols that are constants, meaning they never change. So pi will always be 3.141.
1415.
Brother Luke, when you start to add information that's throwing me off from the flow that we're going right now.
Wait, say that again, brother.
I see when that information that you just inputted, Brother William just inputted, now it's taking me to, I'm losing my flow following you here, because now you even brought in a whole different thought.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to.
Nothing changed.
We're going to clear it up, brother. I promise you we'll clear it up.
All right.
We'll clear it up. Sister Ania.
I'll come back to it because I don't want the brother to, so we can stay on point. It was referenced this, but it was a little different. So I'll come back to it.
Okay, all right. So everything's going to clear up, I promise you. So now we're going to learn how to apply this based on our actual facts. So who was that had lost the flow? Was that Brother Rashid?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get we're going to get your flow back. So let's look at the earth. We're going to deal with the earth first. Same formula. So the formula is the fundamental. Formula doesn't change. We're going to look at this as a cycle of action. So we start, our first input is going to be pi. Pi is a constant, and you're going to notice that that number never changes. So pi is like shorthand. So instead of constantly writing out the number, they just write the symbol, okay? Pi equals 3.141. Now, just as I won't even go into that. I don't want to add I want to interrupt anything else. So, okay, 3.141. So now our change is when you multiply pi times d. Now, one thing you're going to notice that in all these equations we're about to do, pi will remain the same because it's a constant. The d will change based on circumstance. So we know the diameter of the earth is 7,926 miles, correct?
Yes, sir.
Sister Sharon, based on the equation, tell me what the circumference is.
Okay, I don't have a calculator, so I'm doing it by hand.
Ooh.
I could try. So.
Hey. Go for it.
7,926
That's even.
A lot of math.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's in our lessons, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, the math shows that.
You almost there, Sister Sharon?
I'm trying to go as fast as I could.
Yeah, I know.
7, 2. There's a lot of numbers. Let me just bring it up on the calculator.
Yeah, do that's a lot of math. Use your calculator.
Okay.
What you got?
7, 926 times. It's 24,800,000,000.
Nope, you forgot. You got a decimal point.
You forget the decimal point. That's
right.
Do 7,926 times 3.141.
You said 7,926 times 3.141. Right. So it's 24,000.
24,000.
Right. 24,895.566.
Okay.
Okay.
When you get that number, you round up.
Right.
You round it up And the circumference of the planet Earth is what?
24,896 miles.
Yeah.
So now, if I ask you, explain that equation to me, explain it to me now. Explain the circumference equation to me.
So pi times diameter equals circumference.
Okay, so pi next to d is what operation?
Multiplication.
Okay, so now you know the elements and now you know the flow, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now I'm gonna throw this test out, the next one for anyone. In our problem book, it gives us the diameter of Mercury, correct?
Yes, sir.
Same formula. Formula doesn't change. Now, there's a reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, and if you don't catch it, you'll catch it at the end. The formula doesn't change. We're still using a cycle of action. We're gonna start with the first input, which is pi, which is, Sister Sharon, pi equals what?
3.141.
Changes pi multiplied by d. Now for Mercury, d, the diameter of Mercury is 3,000 miles. So, Brother Rashid, you understand how certain numbers change and certain numbers do not?
Yeah, well.
The more you practice it, the more it'll flow with you. You'll get it. I know that 1,000%. The more we do it, the more you'll get it. The pi never changes, but the diameter can.
Okay.
Okay. So certain, as you study more and more mathematics, you'll see there's certain symbols, they remain the same all the time. And then there's certain letters, they represent what's called variable. Now, here's an interesting thing. The word variable, when you clear the word variable, it's synonymous with aberration. And that's what causes our mathematical engrams. It's these doggone variables. So now, Sister Sharon, what's the circumference of Mercury?
9,423 miles.
Yeah.
So that's the circumference of Mercury.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'm gonna pick on somebody else. Let's hit Venus.
This is coming clear. It's slow, but
that's okay.
That's the way I am. But this is the first time something is coming through. Let me say that.
This is called greasing the rails. We're going back and forth.
You used a lot of oil, brother.
we're oiling the rusty locks right now. Okay, again, now we go to Venus. Same formula, cycle of action. Who would like to take a shot at the next one? Can I get a volunteer?
Haviva.
Sister Haviva. Okay, our first input, pi equals what?
What is it? It's 3.141.
Yes, 3.141. And when we deal with change, we're dealing with pi multiplied times d. So I'm gonna give you the diameter of Venus. Based on our problem book, the diameter is 7,000 miles. So Sister Haviva, what is 7,000 multiplied by 3.141?
I have 21,987.
21,987. Is that what you got?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who wants to take the next one? Volunteer.
I'll take it.
Got it, Brother Clinton?
I'll take it.
All right, we're going to Mars.
Yeah.
Take a look at Mars real quick. Again, same formula. Formula doesn't change. That's the fundamental. Cycle of action. We're gonna start, your first input, pi equals what?
3.141.
Pi multiplied times d. Now the diameter of Mars is 4,200 miles. Brother Clinton, what is the circumference?
Oh. 13,000. Wait. That's right. Doesn't sound right. Pardon me. I made a mistake here.
Yeah, that's fine, buddy.
Okay, 13,001,922.
Not 13 million.
Is it 13,000?
Yes. And what's the rest of it?
1922.
Okay.
Oh, 13,192.2.
Yep, 13,192.2. That's Mars. Now, let me do something for a split second here.
Brother Lukman,
Yes, who is this?
that's the first time, Sister Jasmine, that's the first time I realized that Venus was larger than Mars.
Yeah.
I thought Venus was smaller.
Venus, they call Venus the twin planet to the Earth because Earth and Venus are so similar in size. Now, I'm gonna come off the screen for a split second. Now, I'm gonna ask a question, and I need a show of hands because I need to do a count. How many of us up to this point understand this formula? Circumference equals pi times d. Raise your hand just to let me know that you're understanding so far. And I need to get a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12.
You can't see my hands, brother.
Okay, raise your hands again. Okay, so I don't see, okay, there's 3 people, Sister Denise, Sister Kimber, Brother Eric. Do you understand or you don't understand?
Yes, I have it on.
Okay. Sister Kimber and Sister Denise, how are you so far?
I'm speaking on the I'm speaking on the speakerphone, and I mean I can't see the hand where I can raise it.
Oh, but you understand?
Yes, sir, I do. I'm with you.
Okay, Sister Kimber, do you understand up to this point?
Yes, sir. I tried to raise my hand as
Okay.
well, but
Now-
it won't stay.
Okay, there's a reason why I'm asking. Now let's go ahead so we can wrap this up and finish.
Can I say I do understand, but with a little cloud there, but it's much better than what I ever understood it. So I'm gonna take a win on that. Is that all right?
That's all we want, Sister Cheryl. That's all we want. Okay, everyone can put your hands down now. We're gonna knock out the rest of this and we're gonna call it a day. Who wants to take Jupiter? Can I get a volunteer?
Take it.
Take it.
Okay.
So we got same formula, pi times d.
Mhm.
We're looking at this equation as a cycle of action.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna start with pi, which equals what?
Pi equal D, was it D?
Nope, pi equals a
No,
number.
pi equal 3.141.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we know change is pi multiplied by d.
D, that's which is change.
So the diameter of Jupiter, based on our problem book, is 88,700 miles. So 88,700 multiplied by 3.141.
Can I multiply it?
Yes.
All right, everybody just give me a minute now. I remember now, I'm not 16, here I go. That's a service facsimile.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm gonna tell you what it is right now. Okay, it's 278,606 point, I got 7. So I have to add that 7 to 6, so make it 278,607.
You can, yes, I put it, this is the error right here, but you're right, 278,607.
Oh, yes, sir.
You are correct. Who wants to take Saturn? I'm still seeing hands raised. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So now we got Saturn. Who wants to take Saturn?
I'll take it.
Well, I'll take it. Nobody else don't want to do it. I'll do it.
Sister Durana, you got your hand up? You want to take Saturn?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can take Saturn. I don't have the diameter. If you could give me the diameter.
I'm gonna give you the diameter. I'm gonna give you the diameter.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, again, same formula. Pi times D. Our cycle of action. Sister Durana, what does pi equal?
3.141.
Okay. So with pi and D, what are we doing with these two variables? What operation are we doing?
Multiplication.
Okay, so changes in multiplication. So the diameter of Saturn is 75,100 miles. Sister Durana, calculate their circumference.
The circumference is 235,889,000.1.
It's not 235 million.
Oh, I'm sorry. 235,889, 889.1.
There we go. So
okay, thank you, sir.
The circumference, there we go. Okay, we got Saturn. Now, here's the interesting thing. In our problem book, it doesn't give us the diameter of Uranus. So I got to figure out how to calculate that based on the information given. So we're going to skip Uranus for now. Who wants Neptune? Who wants to take Neptune?
I can do it, sir.
Okay, Brother William. Pi times D, cycle of action. Neptune diameter is 33,000 miles. What is the circumference?
The circumference would be 103,653.
I got 620.
There we go. Everyone good so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Who wants to take Pluto?
I can do Pluto.
Who is that?
Sister Sharon.
Sharon. All right, Pluto. So we know pi times D now. And we know
Yes, sir.
pi is what, Sister Sharon?
3.141.
3.141. So here's the diameter of Pluto, 67,000 miles. What is the circumference?
Okay. 67,000 times 3.141. 210,447.
You just calculated the circumference of Pluto. Now, last one. Who wants to take the sun?
I keep hearing Brother Rashid in the background, Brother Lukman.
Brother Rashid, you want to take the last one?
Yes, I'll take it, sir. Thank you, Brother Clinton.
I can't see everyone's screen because I have the PowerPoint on. So if some people are raising their hands, I can't see everybody. So just please forgive me for that. So, Brother Rashid, pi equals what number?
3.141.
Okay. And we know pi next to d represents what operation?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. The diameter of the sun is 853,000 miles. That is actual fact number 20. Calculate the circumference of the sun, Brother Rashid.
2,679,273.
There we go. So now we were given the actual facts of the earth. And if we understand the equations of how to navigate the actual facts of the earth, if we understand those formulas, we can use those same formulas to understand the actual facts of the other planets, right?
Right.
Sir.
So what does that teach us? If we have a knowledge of self, we can have a knowledge of who else?
Everybody else.
We can have a knowledge of everyone. If we have a knowledge of self, we can have a knowledge of everyone. Sister Pamela, your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. Did you know that you missed Uranus?
Yes.
Oh, you did that on purpose?
Yes, because in our problem book, for the planet Uranus, there is no diameter given.
Yes, it is.
Did I miss it? What's the diameter of Uranus?
30,900 miles.
How did I miss that? Okay, well, since you want to put me on the spot, you can calculate.
Yes, sir. And the circumference is 945,126.9.
Did everyone else get that measurement as well?
No, I didn't get the measurement of Uranus, the diameter of Uranus.
I didn't put the figures in.
Her diameter is 30,900 miles.
I must have missed that.
Thank you.
And let me repeat that because I did the calculation wrong. Hold on. Times 3. It's 97,056.9.
Which rounds up to what?
57.
97,057.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that correction, Sister Pam. I missed that.
I'm confused, Brother Lukman. I don't understand what happened.
Is this the Sharon?
It was pi times 30,900 miles, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir.
Did we clear up that misunderstanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I hear.
Awesome. I ain't never understood no math, and I'm sitting over here. You've raised me on the tone scale. Just to have 3/4 of the cloud gone, I was blind. Now I'm wearing glasses, so that's a good feeling.
Well, that was the whole point, and now I'm going to explain why we did it the way we did it. First, let me say this in summary: slopes and ridges can be applied to any constant. Complicated concepts can be broken down into elements and relationships. So, someone.
But Lukman.
Yes.
I apologize. Someone was Someone's system is on, so it kind of overpower what you were saying. So could you please repeat?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out.
Somebody who's driving.
Let's see. Okay, I think the problem might have been fixed. Okay. So you can take any concept, break it down into its individual elements, and then understand the relationship between each element, and then you're able to understand the concept. And then the third thing was a knowledge of self allows us to gain an understanding of others. That's the main thing. Now, let me ask this question. By a show of hands, how many of us understand that formula? Raise your hands. Okay.
I do, Brother Lukman.
Sister Sharon, are you still with us? Are you good?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Praise be to Allah. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity.
Okay, now, the reason why I did this the way I did it is this is called creative processing, but we applied the creative processing to mathematics. That's number one. Number two, when we started the class, 53% of us said we didn't understand that formula. Now, 100% of the class understands that formula, which means those of you who started this Zoom meeting not having an understanding of algebra has just proven to yourself that you are capable of understanding algebra, because that's all it was.
That's it.
That's algebra.
Yes, sir.
So I purposely didn't use the word algebra because just that word algebra can cause a ridge or an aberration. Brother Rashid, you got a question?
No, sir. My hand is still up.
Okay.
Brother Lukman.
Yes, Sister Denise.
As long as we know what the elements means, I think that's where I got, caught up. I didn't know what the diameter was or what the pi meant.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we know what those symbols means, or if it's a letter, that as long as we know what number the letter, we can always multiply it and come up with
Yes.
what it is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the symbols represent the misunderstoods.
Yeah.
So we're taking the same concept in the technology of study, but we're applying it to mathematics and equations.
Okay.
And your letters, because you already know what the numbers are, but the letters represent numbers.
Okay.
And those letters are called variables.
Right.
And once you understand what the letters represent, and you understand how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can literally do any equation that you want.
So how is that? How would I take that and apply it to? You said once you know who you are, then you can. And if others, they have to have but they can have a different equation. The same cycle of what's that word? The same cycle of action process, but they might have a different diameter or something like that, right?
That's interesting.
Am I mixing it up?
No, that makes perfect sense. And I'll answer your question in a way I heard the minister make a statement. Have you ever listened to someone talk and you say, they're lying?
Yeah.
Have you ever said that to yourself? They're lying. Mm-hmm. How do you know they're lying?
Body language, tone of voice.
Mm-hmm. The vibration. The minister,
been there, done that.
Huh?
Been there, done that, and that's how you know.
Because we at some point in time have lied. So Minister Farrakhan says a liar will see lie in someone else.
Okay.
That's right.
So as we gain the knowledge of ourselves, we'll be able to see either our old behaviors, things we used to do, we'll be able to see them in other people. So even in the Dianetics room, as we study ourselves, there are certain behaviors, just like the variables. There are certain variables that are constant, and there are some that change. It's like in our lessons, some of the currents are cold and warm, and some are swift and changeable. There are certain things with everyone in this room. There are certain characteristics that are constant in all of us, and there's certain things that are variable. As we study the Dianetics, or we study anything, if we understand certain things that are consistent with everyone, then we'll be able to calculate and know everyone at one point in time. There's certain things when we read body language, we listen to the tone of voice, we'll be able to know certain things about other people because we have a knowledge of ourselves. There are certain things we'll know based on knowing ourselves, and then there's certain things we have to calculate. Does that make sense?
So are you saying like knowing ourselves is like the pie?
Yeah, that's one way.
And then the dimension is like the other them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's another way of looking at it. If you know certain characteristics about people and you see what they do, then you're able to calculate why they're doing it. That's mathematics, but that's mathematics in the language of Dianetics. Because if you're looking at tone scale, if you listen to how someone speaks, then you can calculate how they're going to act, right? That's science of survival, correct? And Allah says in the Holy Quran that you'll know different people by their grades, by their tone of speech. So tone of speech is actually in the Holy Quran. So when you listen to people talk, you can determine what they will do based on how they're speaking. That's just mathematical theology.
Brother Lookman, can you give a definition of how you're seeing mathematics? I have a definition and I may not. Can you give me your opinion of the definition of mathematics, how you're using it?
To me, mathematics is a language. It's like if I say, if anytime you speak a language, whatever language you speak follows a certain format. So you have a certain place to put your preposition, you have a certain place to put the noun. So if I say, I have if I have a red car, red comes before car. But to say that same statement in French, you actually need to say car red. Oh God, brother Eric, what's the French word for car? Is that voiture?
Voiture.
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 So in French, I would say je suis voiture rouge. I think that's what it is. So language follows a format. It follows a structure. And if you understand what the variables mean and how to put them together, then you can communicate with the universe and the universe will communicate with you. So I see mathematics as a language.
Okay, so, and I see that too, but I also, tell me your opinion. I also have seen mathematics as calculation, like, example, my granddaughter, she's somewhere on the tone scale. I can kind of I know what she does. She don't realize it. So am I using mathematics? What can I consider? I'm speculating what will happen, like self-analysis for Black people. I started a certain list because we as a group has gone through a certain situation. So I say, this is what we need to start first in self-analysis. Is that like mathematics?
That's exactly like mathematics, because if you're doing a tone scale and you're predicting behavior, then you're using your mathematical theology in its proper term.
Okay.
That's how you see it. That's how you're using it. So yes, that is mathematics.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Sister Barbara.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
Right.
When I'm trying to write it down, you said if we have a knowledge of self, you can It was a statement.
As we gain a knowledge of ourselves, then we can gain a knowledge of other people.
So, Brother Luke, man, is that to say we know who we are, like pie, and then when we know
Thank you.
what they are, then we know what they are, like dimension. Then by doing the multiplication of it, we can determine the outcome of that or the understanding of that.
I'll do it like this. Because you know something about yourself and you know something about other people that are in your circle, you know, there's certain people you can't be around because it'll bring out a certain calculation or an outcome. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Yeah, that brings it home.
So you're able to predict an outcome before it takes place because you know you and you know them.
Okay.
Okay, it's
Thank
not
you.
accident that the master gave us that problem number 13. And if you see the way it starts, it's the after learning mathematics, which is Islam. So now you have an equation right there. Islam equal mathematics.
Yes.
Equals Islam. And it's then true. And you can keep it at no limit of time. Okay, now what are we talking about? Because the language of mathematics and the language of Islam is the same. You have to speak truth. Because you cannot have something that is untrue in mathematics. So now when you are practicing your Islam, you also have to be truthful. And if you look at it in Surah 49, Allah said, we cast truth against falsehood until we knock his brain out. Okay, all of that is after you learn how to be truthful to yourself, you can now become truthful to others. And since you are truthful to others, now it is easier for you to understand them and it is easier for them to understand you.
Yes.
So now then you must learn to practice your mathematical theology. Mathematical does not mean it mathematical. You using the same language you would use to solve problems in mathematics. So that means logic, reasoning, deduction, and that will bring you to the circumstance of that individual or that group that you're trying to study. And we are giving all those other tools to help us to understand the tone scale. So now when I'm talking to you, okay, you're saying words to me, I'm looking. But at the same time, I'm looking at what tone level you are.
Yes.
Because your tone level tells me about your circumstance. Now, if I know you are antagonistic, I'm not going to be antagonistic with you. I'm going to come down somewhere at your level to talk to you so that I can bring you up.
Yes.
You see, that's the whole thing about this whole thing that we're doing. And thank you again, Brother Lukman. You're doing an excellent job.
All praise due to Allah. Thank you, brother. Brother Clinton, you got a question?
Yes, sir, Brother Lukman. Assalamu alaikum. You mentioned earlier in reference to one who may have reached to a point of a success in life and just stop at that success without going further. So the Savior came to teach us who we are, who God is, and who the devil is, who our enemy is. So this process that you just laid out to us, these examples, man, just got me into further knowing not only more about myself, but trying to get into the mind of God himself. Because you were said also in a further or earlier class, how the whole Quran was written in a mathematical form. And in the old Quran, it says, paraphrase, if you can produce a book like this, then go ahead and produce it. I don't know what was in the mind of those who taught me in high school algebra, but either they were not taught properly or they just didn't know a better way to bring it over to me. And it brought me to knowing that the scripture says what was hidden from the wise and the prudent is now revealed to the babe and suckling. We entering into the mind of God. That's what this class had brought me closer to believe, to knowing, and to doing. I thank you, brother.
Praise be to Allah. I'm thankful and grateful that it has done its work to oil those rusty locks that we have.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Yes.
Sister Sharon, I see your message, and I will send you something via. I will send you something as a zip file, so you can have that for your collection.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I wanted to thank you. And I also wanted to add, you know, when I was in grammar school and I would have an issue with, you know, a math problem or whatever, and I would ask the teacher for clarity, she would never give me the clarity. It was always, you know, keep up, keep up, keep up. And then I remember one time when I was in college, I was in one of the remedial math classes. And I asked the teacher if she could, the professor, if she could explain to me on the board the, you know, issue I was having. And she was like, this is grammar school stuff. You should know this. And she embarrassed me in front of the whole class.
Mm-hmm.
So that caused me to just shut down. So thank you for the clarity.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of us have engrams just based on mathematics.
Yeah, actually, that is what you would call a lock or a secondary engram.
Yes.
Because it has to do with emotion. Engram has to do with physical pain and physical pain and
emotional pain, but the emotional pain is dormant.
Yeah, the word is not coming to my mouth. Yeah, but it's still, yes.
Secondary.
No, secondary is emotional pain, but it is so intense, so you have to treat that one as an engram. But you got something called a lock, and the lock also is an emotional pain.
Mm-hmm.
And how those things happen? Because somebody, you in public, and then somebody says something derogatory to you in public and make you feel ashamed of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that become a secondary because it is so intense. So you feel like you would kill that person, but you restrain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the same way for a lock, you are in presence of your friend and your mom or your dad to say something to you to make you feel small. And
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that we are dealing with.
Mm-hmm. So now, do we understand that now that we've completed this, do we understand the concept of creative processing? You start where people are and you slowly bring them up to they believe they can't, and then you bring them up to a point where they can. That's creative. That's an example of creative process. Yes, whoever, yeah, I will make sure whoever wants a copy of this will get this. Let me say this one point in closing. Yesterday, while listening to Brother Batin in the Supreme Technology Workshop, my wife and I were actually traveling. And the thought that came to my wife is an IT person. Her background is in computers. So a lot of times when I have questions that pertain to Dianetics and how it affects the mind, I ask her computer questions. And the question that I asked her yesterday was, if you have a computer and the computer has malware or viruses that slow the computer down, what are 2 ways you can speed the computer up? And basically, one way she said is you remove the viruses. If you move the viruses off, your processing speed will go up. But if you increase the power of your processor, that will also increase your processing speed. So I say that to say this. Part of what Dianetics does is it teaches us how to remove the engrams to allow our processor, our mind, to increase in speed, correct? Does that
Yes,
make
sir.
sense?
Yes, sir.
So engrams are like viruses and malware. However, another way to get to a state of clear is to increase our processing. So if we increase the power of our mind and increase the power of our thinking, it reminded me of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who didn't go through the bridge, but his level of understanding is based on education in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So he is a perfect example of us getting to a certain state of cognition just based on the teachings. Those of us who can afford to go clear, all praise is due to Allah. But all of our people don't have that. But if we have the ability to go into our supreme wisdom and go into our mathematics and our science and our medicine and our physics and our agriculture, and we can raise the tone scale of our people using education, but using education on a higher level, meaning we can now go into our supreme wisdom in our problem book and find the treasure and the jewels that Allah has stored up in there by using Dianetics as a tool to get in there, then all of us can begin to close that gap and get to where the minister is on that tone scale. So that was kind of in line with my thought of what Brother Batim was dropping, not only yesterday, but even before. We want to use education. We want to use case game to get to these higher realms of understanding. Because then when our mind is operating up here at these high levels, whatever engram we have, we can wrap it around our finger. Like the messenger said, we can wrap that devil around our finger. We won't even know what's there unless we look at it. So I think I can say this on behalf of myself and Brother Batim, that is the goal of what we're trying to do. We're trying to get case gain. Ability gain and case gain go hand in hand, and it just so happens that case gain and ability gain, the word in Arabic that is synonymous with that is jihad. So if no one else has any other questions, thoughts, concerns, or suggestions.
Well, look, man, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just based on what you just shared with us, just the last statement that you said, does that mean that if we haven't went through any formal Dianetic training, that we will be, like with your classes, which is one of the reasons why I'm here, with your classes, we can attain that without going through the formal Dianetics?
What I'm saying is this: as long as we follow the instructions of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we follow the curriculum that he has set out for us, and we use the tools of Dianetics. Remember, there's 4 things we can do: change environment, education, processing, and I always forget the 4th one. There's processing, education, environment, and what's the other one?
For education. You said education?
Dianetic processing, environment. I believe there's one more. But what I'm saying is, for individuals that have the finances to do it, by all means.
Regulating the amount of mass.
Say what?
It says the 4th is regulating the amount of mass which the individual should control.
Okay, so that boils down to control of your universe and self-determinism. So the more we can get case gain, if we can't afford to go clear, another alternative is just to follow the example that the minister had. The minister is the clearest person that I know. So we can use the Dianetics to crack open the supreme wisdom in the problem book. I believe we can get there based on the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, using Dianetics as a tool. The majority of our people can't afford to go clear. So our job is to take the tech to them, and our job is to help to clear.
Yes, sir. And this is most appreciative. I guess the reason why I was asking is because sometimes the terminology that you use, you know, I'm not familiar with, or, you know, so I guess did we need, I guess my question was, did we really need that as a foundation to be successful in what you and Brother Batina are sharing with us?
I'll say the minister has put us on the road to use it as a tool. So learn as much about it as you can. If I ever make a statement and you don't understand that word, you got to stop me so there's no misunderstoods. So if for future reference, any term I use that's misunderstood, stop me where I'm at so we can connect that word, because where you are in the study of Dianetics and where I'm at might be two different locations. And further along in the tech, L. Ron Hubbard made some changes. So I'm trying to stay in the realm of Dianetics and science of survival, but always stop me so we can clear up the misunderstoods. And
yes, sir, and thank you.
if there's anything you don't understand, send it to me in an email, and I'll send you an email.
Yes, sir. I guess I just want to always properly apply what you're sharing. You know, that's important to me.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So, Brother Luke, man.
Yes, sir.
So the handbook for pre-clears acknowledges that you can actually clear through the handbook of pre-clear alone. You believe that to be, I mean.
If L. Ron Hubbard said it, I believe it. Because I know the handbook of pre-clears is an easier book to understand than Dianetics. If you wish to go through Dianetics, I would say go through Dianetics. Handbook for Pre-Clears is an evolution of the tech, and it's a much easier read than Dianetics.
Process also.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. One thing we have to understand: the minister, he warned Brother Minister Tony, actually with Abdul
Malik.
Okay. He warned them because Minister Abdul Malik used to come and teach with the terminologies that they use in Scientology. He said, no, you go and get that and convert it into a language that is yours. And again, in Supreme Wisdom, he said, no man can be effective at teaching a people that cannot speak his own language. So that means the language, and that's where we're having the difficulty between Scientology and the nation, because we are speaking the same thing, but the language is different. It's like I'm talking about money, and the other one is talking about dinero, and we don't know that we're talking about the same language, the same thing, because they sound different. So the Holy Quran teaches us about what you said earlier. It's Allah was having a conversation with the devil. He said, I will make all of them deviate. And Allah said, you can, but except my purified one. But when you take the word purified one, it means exactly that, except those who are clear. So one of the definitions of purified is clear from, hold on.
Well, Brother Eric, even in the Arabic, that verse you're using, the purified ones, the Arabic is mukalasa, which comes from the Arabic word kalasa, which actually means in Arabic to be clear. So even the Arabic, and that's why on Sundays when we deal with the Dianetics, I try to take what L. Ron Hubbard has stated and find it in the Holy Quran, because that's the language that we speak. We speak Quran language. We can start with Dianetics terminology, but my goal, my personal crusade is to find that tech in the Holy Quran, because if it's truth, we already have it in what we have been given. But we have to go deeper into our lessons, go deeper into our problem book, and go deeper into the Holy Quran and the teachings, the tech is already there. The minister said it already belongs to us.
Mhm. May I say something,
it
Brother
from?
Eric, Brother Lukeman?
Go ahead, and then I got Brother William, then we're gonna close out.
Well, let Brother William go. I can wait.
Okay.
Thank you, family. I just wanted to say two things very quickly. One, I wanted to offer an apology as I heard that my interjection of my question may have disrupted someone else's flow, and that was not my intent. I only brought that question up because I know in my own experience of learning algebra how the lack of understanding of things being constant and then other things being variable led to a lot of confusion on my part as to how to interpret the formula or the equation. The second thing that I wanted to say, I had a cognition, to use the language of Dianetics, from what Sister shared in regard to her experience of having asked a math question. And my moment was that mathematics seems to be targeted because I'm recalling my own son's experience in his math when he was in earlier grades of education, and thinking about how important mathematics is, being the foundation and the basis of the universe. And then knowing that as we are learning, mathematics is Islam and Islam is mathematics, it just began to make sense to me why mathematics seems to be the targeted subject that as students, we are kind of geared to dislike, while other than self, white people are geared to learn mathematics, to become engineers, to become chemists, to work with numbers, while we are kind of discouraged from it. And that was all that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let me ask one final question. I'll get to Sister Cheryl. Brother Rashid, how is your understanding of that equation now with respect to how it was before we started?
Oh, yes, I feel empowered with that knowledge.
Okay, now I say that to say this, Brother William, we understand it wasn't your intent, but your question was necessary for Brother Rashid to get a better understanding. So everything happens by Allah's design.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So that
all praises due to Allah.
Why you asked the question, because it still brought about fruit.
All praises due to Allah.
It sure did. It became 1 and 1 and 2.
All right, Sister Cheryl, you got the last comment.
Yes, sir. Real quick, I'm going back to my 144,000, and that's it. I believe that this is my opinion, and please nobody take it. This is our data. We have been blessed through certain leaders like you and Brother Baton to get this information in our language, to give us ideas so we can take it to our different assignments to salvage our people. I feel that. I don't feel like I'm going to go, the org, I grant them being this. They have to keep the org open. They've got to get money, but this is my information. I'm not going to, I'm a study, but that's just my opinion. I just wanted to say that in closing, sir. Thank you.
Right. And for anyone who's listening, it takes approximately $30,000 to go clear. So if you would like to go clear through these Zoom meetings, by all means, you can send $30,000 this direction, and it would be greatly.
I'll share that.
Praise be to Allah, sir.
And the third weekend, you got to send your address, Brother Lukeman, the third Thursday. I'm just going to remind everybody, we got to throw something their way. So I think we're coming up on the third Thursday. you and Brother Baton need to get information on your
Okay, we will do that.
Cash App. I don't use Cash App, I use checks. So don't even.
And for those who have already sent, let me say that I greatly appreciate the support that you have shown for myself and Brother Batin.
No.
And I just want to thank everyone for your time. Again, we've gone over. It's never my intent, but my thought is, as long as you're here asking questions, I don't mind answering them. So with that being said and done, tomorrow we have Brother Batin again, 10 a.m., Supreme Technology Workshop. It's been phenomenal. I will go ahead and dismiss myself as I came before us in our nation, greeting words and peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Brother Clinton,
Walaikum salam.
did you do us the honors, brother?
He's on.
Can you close us out, Brother Clinton?
He's on mute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I certainly will.
Okay.
Let's attention prayer, please. In the most holy name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise belong to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, and thee alone do we beseech for thine aid, O Allah. Guide us on the right path, on the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not on the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray after hearing thy teachings. Ameen.
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 Thank you, family. Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Assalamu alaikum.